guys, welcome back. My name's Emma, and today I found some really cool stories on r/paranormal from Reddit. I have two kind of short ones and then one longer one. I think that's the second one. But they seem really cool. I kind of skimmed them, so if they're bad, don't blame me. So the first one is called, "What is the most paranormal and unexplainable thing that has happened to you?" And I would love if y'all would answer this question too. Just in the comments. I love creepy stuff. I'm always on Reddit just scrolling, and I'd love to read it from you guys. So it starts out with, "My grandmother lives at the beach. We live 2 hours away from the beach. We always go visit her during vacations. When I was younger, I went to visit her with my family. I should clarify that I have always been a person who loves the water. Every time I go, I spend all day in the sea. One of those days we were there, my mom and I went fishing at the beach. I was mad at her because she wouldn't let me go deep into the sea. She told me to just get into the tide pools, but that didn't let me swim, and I couldn't swim in the tide pools." Okay, I've tried 10 times to read this sentence and it doesn't make any sense, okay? So, she wouldn't let her swim in the deep sea, told her to get in the tide pools, but she was mad because she can't swim in the tide pools. Okay, I didn't listen to her and I went deeper into the sea. I remember I grabbed onto a rock, and strangely on that rock there was green slime. I didn't give it importance. My mom kept yelling at me from outside. Suddenly, I felt a hand that grabbed my leg and started pulling me inward. It was a hand with long fingers, it had long sharp nails, and it was tearing my skin. I screamed, and my mom ran toward me. My mom pulled me out, and the thing let me go. I still don't know to this day what happened to me." That one was kind of hard to read. I should have skimmed it better. That was crazy. I think I'm terrified of the ocean, and that's like, sharks and stuff, which I know people are like, "Sharks are more scared of you." I don't care. I don't have teeth. Okay, well, I have teeth, obviously. I don't have shark teeth, and I could never possibly see a live swimming shark next to me as something to attack. So, of course, I'm going to be more scared of it. Anyway, that's one of my biggest fears. And not being able to see beneath me in the ocean is another thing. And the idea of a hand with long nails grabbing a hold of me and trying to drag me in is probably the scariest thing that I have ever heard. So thank God Mom was there. Listen to your mom. Story number 2 is, "I found out my brother also saw the thing that terrorized my childhood." This is the long one, so buckle up. "I've never written this out before. I'm 28 now, and I still don't fully understand what happened or if it ever really stopped. It started when I was 6 years old. Both of my parents worked full-time, so I spent most of my days at my grandparents' house. One evening, we were all watching TV together when my grandfather, who had a very strange sense of humor, joked that my parents had moved away and weren't coming back to pick me up." Oh my God. Like any normal 6-year-old, I believed him. I walked into the hallway and started crying. That's when I first saw him, if you can even call him a him. I suddenly lost all sensations in my limbs. I couldn't move, I couldn't scream, I couldn't even turn my head. From the guest room at the end of the hall, something emerged. It was tall, impossibly tall, nearly touching the ceiling. It had no real features, just a dark shape, beady eyes, and a stretched, unnatural smile. It walked towards me. I don't remember anything after that. The next thing I knew, my grandmother was carrying me to bed, telling me I had fallen asleep in the hallway. But it didn't stop there. For years after that, it kept happening. I would step out of the bathroom or walk into the hall, and suddenly the same thing. Total numbness, paralysis, and the air would feel heavy. And he would be there. Sometimes just standing and staring, sometimes sitting across from me, silently watching. He never spoke, until one day, he did. My parents had picked me up from my grandparents' house, and we were heading back home. They left to go to the grocery store, and I stayed in the living room drawing. The windows were wide open. It was early 2000s, and we didn't have air conditioning. Then I felt it again, the numbness, the paralysis. I looked up. He was standing outside the window staring at me, and that's when he spoke for the first time. "Let me in. I can't come in unless you let me in." I couldn't move. I just stared back at him in complete terror. Eventually, the feeling lifted. I bolted into the hallway, screaming and crying, completely hysterical, and stayed that way until my parents got home. It wasn't the first time I told them about him, but like every other time, they said I needed to stop watching horror movies and that it was just my imagination. It continued for years, until my mother couldn't take it anymore. She took me to a woman who lived 2 towns over, Looking back now, I'm almost certain she was some kind of a witch. She told my mom that my third eye was open and that she could close it. I don't remember much about what happened there, just flashes. I remember being carried. I remember being spun around over something burning, sticks maybe, fire that felt too close for a child. After that, he stopped coming. For years I didn't see him, until 2 years ago. I was 26, sleeping next to my grandmother in her bed. My grandfather had passed away a few years prior. She was snoring loudly, so half asleep and annoyed, I grabbed my pillow and blanket and moved to the guest room. Yes, that guest room. I didn't think about it, and I fell asleep. Then I jolted awake because something hit me in the head so hard that I fell off the bed. The first words out of my mouth were, "Hell no." Relatable, yep. I grabbed my blanket and my pillow and I ran back to my grandmother's room. I was shaken but eventually fell asleep again. I don't know how. I could never. That's crazy. I would have convinced myself it was just a dream, except I woke up with a tennis ball-sized bump on my head. I stopped thinking about it. I buried it. Then last year I was talking to my brother about how creepy our grandparents' house felt when we were kids, and he casually mentioned the very tall figure that used to come out of the guest room. I nearly choked. I started asking him questions immediately. The description was identical. Tall, ceiling height, dark, beady eyes, smiling. The same room, the same presence. My brother was born when I was about 6.5, and he told me he never mentioned it before because by the time he was old enough to describe it, I was a teenager and he thought I'd make fun of him. We both saw the same thing. Now I don't know what to think. I already feel this post is long enough, but we did go and ask my aunt if she had experienced anything similar. Edit. So here's what happened when we asked my aunt. She's more in touch with her spirituality. She's more in touch with her spirituality. So I knew she wouldn't brush this away. She in fact confirmed that a lot of weird things happened when she used to live there. They'd wake up and find cracked eggs on the wall. Jesus. And light bulbs that would explode. She always felt a weird presence, but she never in fact saw the entity that they described. She said at one point when the electrical problems got too much and almost caused a fire when they weren't home, my grandpa got a sheikh, a Muslim equivalent of a priest, and he blessed the house. Problems stopped for a while, but they did come back, just not as powerful. So no answers, really. They go on to say that they do not believe that it was sleep paralysis because they were awake. It's not AI, and the grandmother doesn't really believe it. That one's like a classic story, you know? Classic paranormal story. I love it. Tall, scary, blacked out creature, or guy, or man, or ghost, whatever. It's terrifying that it can cause that paralysis and numbness, though. That's terrifying, you know, because you just feel so helpless, but you're so horrified at what you're seeing that all you probably want to do is run away, but you cannot physically move. I know that's what a lot of people experience with sleep paralysis. I'm lucky enough to have never had that happen to me. Thank God. Sounds terrible. I like that story. And the third story and final story is unexplained knocking at home. My family and I went on a short staycation at a hotel in our city. We ordered an extra bed for my sister, and things started to become weird after that. The bathroom door in our room would only open if pushed really hard from outside. Throughout the day, random knocks were heard from the walls and the table. It was really bizarre. Everyone felt uneasy, but we decided to stay the night since we had already paid. We complained to reception. They sent staff to check, but there were no construction nearby and no one was staying in rooms next to us. Nothing explained the noises. During the night, I slept, but my cousins claimed they heard crying and howling. We left in the morning. Complimentary breakfast included, obviously. I kept telling my family we should leave, but they wanted to get their money's worth. Since they paid for 2 days, they wanted to stay for at least a breakfast. About 2 weeks later, similar things started happening at home. It began with loud knocks on my wall behind my bed, then on my grandmother's wall in her room. The knocks were so loud they gave us headaches. Oh my God. We checked with neighbors, but they were all out of town. We lived in a large villa with intercoms in every room, and those started ringing on their own. Around 3 a.m. or 3 p.m., when we would pick up, no one would speak. At first, we thought someone in the house was messing with us, so we gathered everyone in the living room on the ground floor, but the intercom still rang. Even the men in the family, who at first refused to believe us, got visibly shaken when my uncle disconnected the intercom system by cutting the wires, and it still rang. Oh my God. This really creeped my family out. Yeah, no kidding. God. One evening, the knocking became extremely loud. We all ran to my grandmother's room because she was clearly terrified. Later, 2 of my cousins claimed they saw shadows behind the curtains, though none of us can confirm that part. My aunt said she had a dream where a shadow-like figure that resembled a child asked her, "Why are you doing so many efforts to make me leave when I have troubled no one?" This went on for 2 months. Eventually, my family called a priest who gave us holy verses to tape on the walls. A few days later, one of the papers with holy verses outside my room was found upside down. The priest returned, walked around the house praying, and then told us to start calling my younger sister by a different name. I don't know why, but my family followed his instructions. Around the same time, my younger sister said she could hear the knocking even at school. We thought she was just scared and imagining things until her teacher confirmed it. The teacher said that they were in school library when loud knocking noises were heard. Staff thought someone was causing trouble and made the students line up, but the knocking continued and they couldn't find the source. We did everything the priest asked and called my sister by a different name. No one slept by themselves, always in pairs. No one was allowed to wear perfume. He came back a few weeks later with a long stick in his hand. He slid it across all walls and kept chanting holy verses. Over time, after following his instructions, the activity slowly reduced and then stopped completely. Nothing similar has happened since, and we still live in the same house. Oh my God. I'm not someone who's easily scared or very into paranormal explanations, but whatever this was, it genuinely shook me and my entire family for months. It followed her to school. So it was more so attached to the youngest sister than it was to the entire family. But it was like, why not? Let's mess with everybody. Why not? That's crazy to me. Oh, I don't think I've ever heard of that, where it would follow someone to school or to work. It's usually just like hanging out at the house. Or maybe it'll like follow them to like a family member's house, but it won't. Not to like school or work, because then they're surrounded by a bunch of strangers. I don't know. Well, what did you guys think of those stories? Some of them were creepy. I don't know. In kind of different ways though. I think the last one was probably my favorite. I love those kind of creepy hauntings, but everyone's still safe. No one's really getting hurt. I love those. Those are my favorite. But yeah, if you want to hear more of these, I just realized that my heater has been on this entire time because it's freezing in this house. I'm so sorry if the audio on this is utter shit. I didn't even think about that. Damn it. Okay, well, too late. If you have any stories you'd like to share, please leave them in the comments. Please like, please follow. I'm really enjoying reading these stories because I've been reading them in my spare time all the time, and it's so fun to get to read them and then share them with you guys as well. And if you would like these same kind of stories, this one's from r/paranormal, or if you have a different Reddit that you think I would like, let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please come back for another video. I'm really enjoying sharing these scary stories. But I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, and bye.